Hello and welcome to the Vine Life Podcast. I'm Tony Clark, your host. Today, my special guest, once again, is Paul Petersen. Now, Paul has been an actor, a singer, a novelist, and an advocate. He's probably best known as an actor for playing Jeff Stone on the Donna Reed Show from the late 50s to about the mid-60s. In 1990, Paul established an organization, A Minor Consideration, to support child stars and other child laborers through legislation, family education, and personal intervention and counseling for those in crisis. Now, the last interview, we focused on A Minor Consideration, and we'll certainly touch on that as well. And I'll give you the information to go to those websites. If you want to learn more about Paul Petersen, you can go to paulpetersen.com, and that's Petersen, SEN.com. You can also go to A Minor Consideration.org to find out more about this amazing nonprofit that Paul started a number of years ago. Today's program, I'd like to focus on Paul's acting, his musicianship, his singing, and also his writing career. But Paul Petersen, without further ado, thank you so much for coming on the program again today.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine.
Well, it's an honor, certainly on my end. Again, I've talked to you before. My wife and I are huge fans of the Donna Reed Show. We're fans of your acting from that show, the camaraderie that all of you actors had together. And I'd like to talk about if you don't mind, starting with the Donna Reed Show. As a young child actor, how did you get that gig? How did you get signed up to play Jeff Stone on the Donna Reed Show?
Well, as you may be aware, I had kind of an interesting and pretty high-profile acting career before the Donna Reed Show, thanks due to the movie Houseboat with Cary Grant and Sophie Loren. And when I went up on the interview, it was typical Hollywood casting call, lots of boys, lots of girls. And Shelley Fabre and I, the previous year, had been cast as brother and sister on the Sherry Lewis show. So we had the act, the handsome young teenage daughter and the pesky little brother. We had that down. So when we did our test scene together, we really did nail it. And Donna was overjoyed at our chemistry. We, of course, got along with her, in my house. Donna Reed, being an Iowa gal, like my mom, was a big star. And after checking with Cary Grant, he assured her that I could do the work. And they hired us. Now, I should tell you quickly that at age 12, I hadn't yet turned 13. When you get cast on a show, you're only thinking the pilot. You're thinking, okay, I get a couple of weeks' work at decent wages, but you don't expect 8 years. Mm-hmm. And Tony Dow, who was Wally on Leave It to Beaver, explained the story this way. You make a decision to accept the employment, and then, oof, there goes your life. Because you will be completely identified by that choice for the rest of your life. I will forever be Paul Petersen. You remember him from the Donna Reed Show. Now that can turn into a cross. It can be a heavy burden. And in fact, it impacts young performers and makes the transition into adulthood very difficult. But if you can get past that, the rewards are significant. Now, some kid actors are not impacted by this. Allison Arngrim is an example from Little House on the Prairie. She always knew she was playing a character. Nellie, the bad girl, wasn't her at all. So she sailed through the transition. Kenny Osmond on Leave It to Beaver sailed through the transition, became a policeman without trouble. But some people, like Jay North from Dennis the Menace, never quite get past the character they played. But I didn't know any of this when I got the job in 1958. What I did know is I suddenly had my own tutor for the next 8 years, Dr. Lillian Barkley. I was working with very smart and accomplished professionals, Donna Reed, Carl Betts. And what I didn't realize then, but came to understand, was that Donna Reed and Carl Betts had, like adults, deeply discussed their role as being television parents because they had seen in Hollywood bad examples where the children were negatively affected by the relationships on a working set. Father Knows Best comes to mind. Eleanor Donahue and Billy Gray were deeply affected by their years on Father Knows Best. But most of all, Lauren Chapin, who played young Kitten, she was the one that was harmed the most because it's an unnatural thing. Now, listen to me, I go on and on. I talk too much about this.
Oh, I'm curious. How much of Paul Petersen was in Jeff Stone and vice versa?
Well, in the beginning, very little, truth be told. Jeff Stone, beyond being a pesky little brother, because in real life I was a pesky little brother, that wasn't the largest part of my character. As it became clear to me, I was interested in a lot of things. And I liked being on the Donna Reed Show because it was a highly moral and sensitive show where people were allowed to love each other for all the problems that we had. It was, we knew it wasn't reality, but it was a good emotional instruction, if you will, for our audience. This is how you deal with having 2 dates on the same night. This is how you deal with a minor injury in the household. This is the mask that you put on when you have to do chores. And we provided solid emotional guidance, if you will, for 8 years. So I was comfortable with that. And as the years went on, more and more of Paul Petersen, the person, started to come out of the Jeff Stone shell, especially when my little sister, Patty, came on the last 3 years of the show.
Mm-hmm. Paul, the one thing watching the Donna Reed Show that we really appreciate, there was a lot of realness to it because a lot of old shows that you watch, the mother and father never argued. The conversations, they would get upset with the kids, but it was never into a full blown argument. But watching that show, Carl Betts and Donna Reed, they had some chemistry there where it seemed like they were actually married and they had arguments, and there were arguments between and that's one of the things that I appreciate about the show. It seems real.
Well, and I agree with you. That's why it became a fixture every Thursday night at 8:00. Remember, our lead-in was Ozzie and Harriet. So you had that rendition of Hollywood's idealized television family. People were already accustomed to Father Knows Best with Robert Young, and then they had our show. And because we were sponsored by Campbell Soup, which really only had 2 shows on television, one was Lassie and the other was us, we lived within pretty strict guidelines, even more restrictive than the old Hayes office. Married couples couldn't be in the same bed, for example. And when you kissed, 1 foot had to be on the floor.
Well, the chemistry between all of the main characters, and if you don't mind, I would love to go down each of these actors and just talk a little bit about each one of them.
I'll do my best to remember.
Okay. Let's start with Carl Betts, who played Alex Stone, the dad on the show. What do you remember about him?
Well, first of all, the immensity of his talent. I try to remind people when he won the Emmy for Judge for the Defense after the show, I wasn't surprised in the least. Carl was a graduate of Carnegie Mellon and, in fact, shared the Carnegie Award with Robert Ludlum, the novelist. He loved Shakespeare. He was an accomplished painter, and he was very much a fixture within the well-trained Hollywood actors. He was a respected member of that cast, if you will. So that's what I remember about Carl. He was so generous and so kind to me and eager for me to grow up. I think I disappointed him because I never made that commitment to the arts that he had made, because he had to do this out of the coal fields in Pennsylvania. And when he went to Carnegie, he committed early to being a qualified performer, and he was.
And Paul, I was looking at his life a little bit in the research to this interview, and he died at a very young age. Correct?
Oh, did he ever? Yes, he did. It was a terrible blow. It's the kind of diagnosis that carried with it a certitude of lethality. And at the time, Carl would not let me name my boy Carl. He said that would be a terrible insult to your father. So when the second boy was born, Carl was still alive then. He got a big smile when Ethan, that's my second son, middle name is Alexander, like Dr. Alexander's son. He was quite a character.
Well, again, he passed much too young, obviously.
Yes.
Let's go to the next one of your actors on the show, one of your co-actors, Shelley Fabre. Talk about her a little bit. How the chemistry that you guys had together, some of the memories on the show, but just talk about Shelley Fabre just a little bit.
Well, I have so many memories of Shelley. Parts of it are the kind of memories that brothers have with sisters. I got into a lot of fights defending Shelley's honor. You know, a lot of my chums thought that she was next to Annette about the hottest girl on TV. And they made the typical kind of remarks that young men make. I was always amazed at what a gifted actress. Oh my goodness. Funny and steady. I was not in the least surprised when she started to do Elvis movies on the outside. I remember funny things with her because we really did become buddies, but brother and sister buddies. And I remember I didn't give Elvis enough credit for his talents. And she invited me to one of the movies that she did with Elvis on a day he was going to sing. And I reluctantly went over there. Okay, I'll show up. And I'm standing behind the camera with the rest of the crew. And the click track started, and I'm watching this kind of nice Southern boy, quiet voice. And then he started to sing. And like generations of people, I was blown away. And when the song was over and the director yelled cut, Shelley hit me in the side with a very sharp elbow and said, "Well, what do you have to say now, little brother?" Because he really was a force of nature. When he sang, Oh boy, hard to beat, that's for sure. The other part that I got to admire with Shelley and feel feel this very strongly to this day, Shelley never talked about Elvis. She never told secrets. She never ran to the press. She was a competent actress and friend of his. And Elvis's buddy, Jerry, said that that's what Elvis most appreciated about her. She could help push him through a scene because she was a competent actress. But as a friend, she was constantly uh, aware of and sensitive to Elvis as a person.
Hmm.
And Shelley, of course, all my sisters are now younger than me, but she's had quite a remarkable personal life. And I'm very happy for her. She and Mike have a wonderful relationship, and we're both getting up there. I tried to say to somebody, with cousin Bruce. He asked me, how's it feel to be almost 79? And I said, well, I'm older than Trump and younger than Biden. Excuse me.
Well, remarkable, memories of working with Shelley and her
Yes.
talent. Thank you for that, Paul. What about there's someone familiar in your life? I think you just mentioned her, but Patty Petersen, who played Trisha. I think
Yes.
she's your sister, correct? What was it like
Yes,
working with
she
your
is.
sister?
Oh, it was wonderful. As you know, California labor laws requires an adult be accompany a minor in the workplace. Well, I was the adult because I was over 18 for the last 3 years when Patty served on the show. And it was great fun. I would pick her up in the morning and we'd ride to work together. And then we spent the day working as actors. And then I'd take her back to her house and my mom and worry about her dinner, make sure she knew the lines and what to do for the next day. And I got the biggest kick of watching her grow up as she's darn near 10 years younger than I. And Patty's doing great. She had married her high school sweetheart, had a couple of kids who are wonderful, Melissa and Tim. And I talked with her this morning. In fact, we were laughing about, who knows, something funny that came up. And I adore her. She's my Trisha bug.
Well, again, the obvious chemistry between you two on the program is amazing. Paul, let's kind of conclude as far as the main actors on the Donna Reed Show with Donna Reed herself. What's your memories? What are some of your memories about working with the great Donna Reed?
Wow, it almost makes me become overwhelmed with the number of memories because I saw her in so many different lights. I must tell you, she was not only an Academy Award winning star from Iowa, she was an Iowa farm girl who was born in my mother's era in the adjacent county. Donna was from Crawford County and my mom was from Cherokee County, right next door to each other. Donna was the oldest of 5 children in Depression era Iowa, who on her own at age 18 decided she was coming to California to be a star. And by God, she did it. She got on a train when she was 18 on her own, came to California, enrolled in community college, worked on her craft, got a contract at MGM, and started to work. And she was one of thousands of gals who wanted that job, but she got it.
Mm.
And what a gifted actress. Oh my goodness. Just there is something so genuine about her. And when you watch, for example, It's a Wonderful Life, the chemistry between Donna Reed and Jimmy Stewart was evidence of, at least in my mind, of the sincerity that she brought to things. And I quizzed her about that. And she said, you have to listen. It's easy to be an actor, but to be a reactor is a challenge. People can tell if you're not listening. So she was very animated to work with, but I have to tell you, I called her Miss Reed in front of people. On the set, I called her mom, obviously, but she was Miss Reed to me, even outside of the work environment. And it wasn't until almost 5 years after the Donna Reed Show finished production that Donna leaned across the table at Chasen's in Beverly Hills because I was telling a story to Miss Reed, and she said, "Oh, I think it's time you started to call me Donna." she she was an amazing woman. Now, that is not to say that I was so overwhelmed by her that I I didn't have room to be myself. Donna, as people know, is a very, very liberal uh, part of the Hollywood entertainment establishment. Her husband, Tony Owen, was a prominent theatrical agent. She was an Academy Award winner and one of the founders for Another Mother for Peace and Common Cause. And she managed to raise me, who had the freedom to be a pretty conservative fellow. We didn't have arguments about this, just as I don't have arguments when it comes to politics with Shelley, and never really had arguments with Carl either. But I was on the other side of the political spectrum for sure.
Well, amazing memories. And Donna Reed, just like Carl Betts, looking at her year that she passed, she died fairly young as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, very young. She was 1986. She was still short of her 64th birthday.
Mm.
That was an awful period. She had that big flap on Dallas when she came in and took over Barbara Belgetti's part to play Miss Ellie, and she didn't get along with Larry very well.
Mm.
He was, in fact, quite cruel and unnecessarily, and it upset her that she couldn't establish a relationship with him, and it bothered her stomach, and she started to feel poorly. And she went to the doctor, assuming he was going to say, "Well, you've got an ulcer or something, and let's do an exploratory surgery." And in December of 1985, they went in for exploratory ulcer surgery and stopped after 20 minutes because there was a carrot-sized tumor, pancreatic cancer, growing through her liver. Yeah. And the doctor told Grover and the rest of the family that the prognosis for her in her early 60s was 30 days. That's how far advanced the cancer had progressed. And she was lucid and calm, had 4 children at home to worry about, and made sure that Shelley got her birthday present before she died in January of 1986. Amazing woman.
Amazing lady, amazing career as well.
Yep.
And Paul, the Donna Reed Show. Thinking back, do you have some favorite episodes? Do you have a favorite episode of the many shows that you did over 8 years?
Well, gosh, the My Dad episode stands out. The episode where Shelley sings Johnny Angel stands out. The fun couple of episodes we did with Don Drysdale and Willie Mays stand out. Buster Keaton,
Yeah.
Esther Williams. People came through. Columbia Pictures was not a big studio. It was kind of one of the smaller studios, but Harry Cohen was alive when we started. And Billy Gray had already left the studio from Father Knows Best. So I was kind of the young guy that was getting around the whole studio, and I felt very much at home there. But as for individual episodes, there were episodes that had personal meaning to me. One, a script that I wrote with a friend of mine that was purchased by the company and produced, and I had a ball doing that. Working with Marlo Thomas and working with Leslie Gore came round. I had a whole string of girlfriends on the show, which I'm proud to say I stayed friends with for years and years and years. That was fun. The only negative part of the show was I didn't like Bob Crane, didn't like him at all. Mm. And I understood that Donna and Carl wanted to have, adult relationships in the final years. But I didn't like Bob Crane.
As far as the Donna Reed Show, the studio that you mentioned, I think the outside, and I think the backlot. Correct me if I'm wrong. Of Universal Studios that had the Donna Reed house, basically the outside scene.
Columbia Ranch.
The
Columbia Ranch.
Columbia Ranch. Hasn't all of that been leveled just within the last year, torn down?
Yes, just within the last 20 months. Our house, the exterior of our house at the ranch, was never called Donna Reed's house. It was the Blondie house.
Okay.
That's how the industry crews knew it, because that's where Blondie was filmed. The house next door to us was never the Kelsey house. It was Dennis the Menace house. Yeah. That's where Mr. Olson lived. Yeah. There were so many memories there. It was a peculiar place to work because it was in the valley, so it was hot. It was right underneath the takeoff pattern for Hollywood Burbank Airport. So you'd be in the middle of a scene and here comes a jet overhead. And you have to do it again. But it was always fun to go there. And there were some good restaurants right around there. So lunchtime was always special. But I never had I sound so much like a typical Hollywood kid. I didn't get attached to sets because sets come and go. They really do. Working even on stage one where we were, one day you'd walk in and there would be the Donna Reed living room, and 20 minutes later it'd be a bedroom because they just push a couple of walls around and change the furniture, and it was a different feeling. But getting there was fun.
I had the opportunity to interview Keith Thibodeau, who played Little Ricky
yes.
on the I Love Lucy show. He also played a character on the Andy Griffith show. And I was asking him, I said, Keith, did you have any memorabilia from any of these sets? And he said the only thing that he had was the drum set that Lucy herself purchased for him when he was a kid. And he had that restored. And so I was going to ask you that question, but I think you've answered that. And I was just curious because I had the opportunity as a teenager in the late 80s to tour Universal Studios. And I remember riding a tram down Blondie Street. And when I was younger, that those sets didn't mean a lot to me. Those TV shows didn't mean a lot to me. But as I've gotten older, those old classic TV shows mean a lot to me now. So,
and I understand that. Believe me, I do understand. There's whatever my personal memories may be, or, did I take anything from the sets to cherish? I appreciate how others feel about this stuff. I felt lucky that I got to take home all my wardrobe. I had a costumer by the name of Guy Varil, and who made sure I had beautiful suits. And I performed quite a bit around the country, because of the music career. But I didn't have anything that I quote unquote cherished. I didn't take a painting from a wall, for example. The personal memories were important to me, still are, and they're quite vivid. But as for a specific place, nah. Professional actors don't have time for that.
Well, that's completely understandable. And but as far as time, are you open to some more questions about your music career?
Well, we can briefly, though. You can hear the bells are going off there.
Oh, okay.
The music, so as even Shelley will tell you, I never met a microphone I didn't like. I was a singer and a dancer before I ever got to work on the Mickey Mouse Club. I had already performed at the VA. I had performed at the Hollywood Bowl. My sister and I won every contest we participated in, particularly Rocket to Stardom, which was a big deal in Southern California. So I loved to sing. Shelley, on the other hand, hated singing. She didn't ever think of herself as a singer. So when they asked us if we'd sing, Shelley got a rash and said no. And I, thinking of Ricky Nelson, said, "Give me the mic." So it worked out very well. Those were the days when the record companies took advantage of their talent, didn't pay them fairly, and they didn't pay Shelley fairly, and they didn't pay me fairly. But on the weekends, where everybody else was heading for the beach, I would be getting on American Airlines and heading for a personal appearance, and I'd sing my lungs out for a couple $1,000s in cash.
Yeah. Well, again, you had an amazing acting career. You were a teen heartthrob as a young singer as well. You had an extensive writing career with the Smuggler series. You've written the book, your autobiography, Walt, Mickey, and Me: Confessions of the First Ex-Mouseketeer, if I can pronounce it. But if someone wants to investigate these novels that you've written in the past, can they go to your website and track those down, or how would they do that?
I don't sell them on the website. They're available. These are now historical issues, because I really did there was a moment in my life when things changed significantly after the death of Rusty Hamer, who was my buddy, my friend, my running mate as a young star himself. I focused on the true nature of young celebrities, myself included. And when I wrote Walt, Mickey, and Me, I became not only fascinated with, but instantly identified to the common threads that were so apparent to me in the young performers community, going back to the 1860s, but up through, the Jackie Coogans and Mickey Rooney's and Elizabeth Taylor's and those folks. And that change, that sea change in my life led directly in 1990 to a minor consideration. And for all that I have done in my life, much of which is public, my biggest accomplishment is a minor consideration. That's what I'm most proud of. That's what I am most committed to. It's where I have learned the most, and I think have done the most good. We were told, when I say we, my wife and I, she was a show business nurse till her retirement, by a very powerful man from the background of Hollywood. When we told him in 1990 what we wanted to accomplish, changing the laws, making sure kids own the money they earn, and that the laws would be universal, Hank said to the two of us, "You can accomplish anything in Hollywood if you don't care who gets the credit." And that has held true. We have made some remarkable progress. Everything from making Hollywood stop hiring premature babies. Premature babies. Imagine going into the marketplace and hiring a 3-pound premature baby. Hollywood was doing that. We had to pass a law that babies couldn't work until they were full term, full birth weight plus 15 days. We had to do that, kind of slapping Hollywood in the face and saying, wake up. These are performers. They're not pops. They're people. You can't treat them poorly. But also we have made progress in getting people to understand when you go to the movies or watch a television show that employs an animal actor like a Lassie or Rin Tin Tin, at the end of that show, that movie, that television show, there's a little symbol from the AHA, American Humane Association. And it says, no animal was killed or injured in the making of this film. And I say to people, why doesn't it say that for children? I think they're at least as important.
Absolutely. And to find out more about a minor consideration, you can simply go to the website, aminorconsideration.org. And I can tell you, this is a nonprofit that's worthy of your support. If you're listening via podcast or watching the video interview, I just highly encourage you to go to this website, check out about what Paul has started in a minor consideration, and about all of the good work that's taken place since the founding of this nonprofit. So it's worthy of your support.
Thank you for those kind words. And you can always reach me through Facebook. I'm available. I'm not hiding. I'm on the right side of the dirt and taking nourishment, so you can find me. Thanks so much for making time for me today.
Paul, it's been an honor. Thank you so kindly for coming on and talking about your career and your current work with the minor consideration.